Overrated, underrated.
When it comes to a barbell, I think they're all overrated.
Full range of motion.
I think what people think is full range of motion isn't always even full range of motion.
Functional training.
I don't even really believe that there's any non-functional movements.
Cholesterol.
Overrated.
Perfectly rated. The Carnivore Diet.
Overrated.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
Being like super carnivore and being like against vegetables, I think it's still too far.
Andrew Huberman. Mike O'Hearn.
Underrated.
Yeah, I think so.
Come on.
Overrated.
Overrated.
Ah.
Layne Norton.
Layne Norton.
Mhm.
What do we do here? I would say that Layne Norton has to go into this category.
Here we go.
All right.
Chiropractic family, I hope you're having an amazing day. And if you're not, well, I hope this podcast makes your day a little bit better. Now, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, we'd love it if you left us a rating or a review because that helps the podcast grow, and it's growing a lot. And if you're listening on YouTube, 48% of you are not subscribed. So hit that red subscribe button, baby. All right? And enjoy the episode. Oh, man.
All right, I'm just going to go back to lifting my kettlebells.
There you go. Whoop. Careful.
You got to look at it as you press overhead.
Or look away so you can stack your bones better.
Stacked it up.
All right, we're rolling. So whenever you guys,
Dude, you got a new car?
yeah,
Sick.
I'm stoked.
What was going on with the other one?
A lot. So Subarus have this really cool feature that comes stock. Like every Subaru has this. Like it's not like you have to pay additional fee to get this upgrade. But they burn and leak oil. Like just you don't have to do anything. They just do it on.
The car will smoke.
Yeah.
That's a good special effects.
Whenever I would get here, you know, it was more of a shot to the ego because I know what's going on, but I just don't have the time to fix it. But I'd get here, or every stoplight, get off the freeway, just like smoke would be coming up. And it's like I want to have this disclaimer, like, guys, I know it's there. It's just oil. It's probably leaking out of the valve cover if I'm lucky.
People are like pointing at you, telling you to roll your window down.
Yeah,
Like, bro, your car's on fire.
Especially like when in the middle of traffic.
You're like, nah, it's fine.
Hey, pull up a picture of your babe, by the way, so people can see what you got. Because your car is nice.
I know I haven't taken an outside picture, but I'll do another one.
Kind of also pissed that he hasn't taken me on a drive. Like he came here one day and I was like, dude, you got to take me around the block. He's like,
something.
Not yet. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, because it's
with
still
Andrew,
in the break-in period. So.
What is the break-in period?
It's going to take you
It's
45
brand
minutes
new.
to get around the block with Andrew.
Yeah, I do drive a little slow.
But don't you like to? This is the thing about you. You like to go fast though. Like
if you're
a
not
race
first, you're
guy.
last. Yeah, you want to go fast. Yeah, but so but I got to be careful. You know, I got a car seat in the back, but the other car was burning up oil and literally catching fire. Power steering's about to go out. Headlights worked when they wanted. What else?
Did you see the new, there's a commercial for Subaru I saw recently. Maybe it's only like a local commercial. But have you seen this commercial? The guy gets in the car and he's about like to start it up and like take off. And then a bunch of chicks pile in the back. I was like, is this what happens when you have a Subaru? Is that what Andrew has been?
No, if it's
hey, let us know in the comments. Like, is this a panty dropper car? This type of thing?
Yours is kind of like yours is.
Well, it's just like when we work on our physiques, we think it's going to get us a lot of chicks, and it's just mainly a bunch of dudes that are like, sick, bro.
That's us.
So that's
Angelo would be pumped for you, right?
Yeah, he would.
He'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, no, I'm excited. It's 6 speed, so it's tons of fun to drive.
It's good in the snow and stuff like that.
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
right?
all-wheel
Super
drive.
practical here in Sacramento.
Right, yeah. I had to make sure I got all-wheel drive on a car that's just known
go
for
to Tahoe.
burning oil and shit. So yeah, smart move.
You mentioned commercials though, and what are you watching that you get commercials?
Just watching TV. Yeah.
Watching
Damn, you're old.
like playoffs
right?
and stuff.
Yeah, if you have a TV on, you're supposed to have your phone in front of you too, right? At the same time.
Yeah.
I just realized I haven't seen a normal commercial in a very long time.
I don't know what I was watching. It might have been like local news or something. The TV's on in our house all the time.
Okay. I was like, you watch the local news?
Yeah, we Jasmine, actually my daughter, was like on
just, like,
TV
on.
and so like we watched like the Sacramento news, I don't know which one, and like they tell, I mean I tell shitty jokes, but like they tell really bad jokes and everyone laughs and I'm like, damn, this is terrible. And like every 30 seconds there's another commercial break. like, dude, how do people do this? Like, this is terrible.
How did we do that?
I don't know.
We had longer attention spans when we were younger.
Yeah, that's
I think
true.
so.
That's absolutely true.
Because I would not do that shit. Everything we watch, we stream.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up watching a bunch of stuff, yeah. But yeah, a lot of it is streamed too, like watching Mandalorian and all that kind of stuff. Succession, I don't know if you guys ever see that show, but I like that a lot.
You caught up?
Yeah.
You watch Succession?
Yeah.
I don't know what
it's
you're talking
dope.
about.
I love that show.
I can't watch shit
It's
right
so
now.
good. It's so long. You're gonna have 4 seasons deep. But Succession's good.
Well, that's
you
cool.
saw the recent episode.
I did, yep.
We ain't
I
gonna
saw that.
spoil it, but you guys gotta watch Succession. It's good. It's good. Anyway, overrated, underrated. Saw this.
I think I'm both.
You
Mark Bell.
Overrated, period. End of show. Take it in.
We saw this video from Jeff Nippard, and go check out Jeff and Layne's video. He did an overrated, underrated on different topics in fitness, and I was like, "Yo, this is dope. We should do this," because there's some things I definitely disagreed with, but we have some other things to add to that list. So we want you guys to let us know too as we're going through this shit what you think is overrated, underrated, and we're adding a little thing to it, P or perfectly rated. Okay, so
I have a P.
You have a P. The P is on your other sheet.
Overrated.
I feel like there's
got
a
a
spider on
P.
my
You
head.
gotta flip it around. Yeah, dude.
There's a spider on your motherfucking head. Remember that?
Dude.
What's that movie?
No, I don't.
You mean snakes on a plane?
I don't understand your jive talk or what it is you're trying to tell me. He's like, no. There's a motherfucking spider on your motherfucking head. Martin Lawrence and the really tall white comedian.
I don't know who you're talking about. Yeah, he talks kind of like he's
You're not talking about Rappaport, are you? No, that's a different movie.
Oh shit! There's people listening that are like, I know the name of the movie.
tall white comedian.
Blue Streak,
No,
where Martin's plays a cop.
no, it's the movie where he walks into that gas station and his feet are on fire, and the guy behind the guy behind the counter goes, "You must be really fast."
Andrew.
Oh fuck! What's the name of that movie?
I don't know.
Nothing to lose.
Nothing. I think that's it.
That's what I pulled up.
yeah.
on
What's the
YouTube.
actor? The white actor.
Oh fuck! Hold on.
He's in a car and he goes crazy because he has like a tarantula on his head.
Oh my god. Ugh, those are fucking.
Which they don't do anything.
Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins. There we go.
Pull him up. Who's Tim
Pull up
Robbins?
this clip. You got to pull up this clip.
Okay,
You got to find it.
one thing at a time,
You
guys.
got YouTube. You got
And there's one more clip you got to pull up after this.
we're
Before we
treating
get
Andrew
into
like
this.
he's chat GPT.
For real. What the fuck?
Look at his face.
Martin Lawrence was such a good actor.
Oh my god, he's
He's
funny.
amazing.
There's a spider on your
Look,
head.
I am sorry. I'm not up on all this jive-talking homeboy lingo. There's a spider on your head.
It means there's a spider on your motherfucking head.
Holy fuck.
That's fucking massive, dude.
You must be really fast.
Some of it.
All right, can you type in airplane?
Oh yeah, with the
Jive
jive talk.
Sling. That white woman. I think her name. What's her fucking name?
Oh yeah, she's like,
Billingsley.
she goes, I speak jive.
She did, yeah. Barbara Billingsley.
I speak jive. He said that he's in great pain and he wants to know if you can help him.
All right, would you tell him to just relax and I'll be back as soon as I can with some medicine.
Just hang loose, blood. She's gonna catch up on the rebound on the med side.
What it is, Big Mama? My mama didn't raise no dummies. I duck a rap.
Cut me some slack, Jack. Chomp don't want to help, Chomp don't get to help.
She's so good. She's so good.
They're like, what?
Oh man. All right. Let's get into this. Overrated, underrated.
Training to failure, overrated or underrated? Just do it like this cheaply.
I would vote for overrated.
Overrated? What do you vote for, Andrew?
Training to failure. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and hit that with an overrated as well.
I guess I'll give it some context for me. I would just say that I think that training to failure can be great in a lot of ways. But I think we see so many of those bodybuilding videos of the guys just going all out, making these crazy faces. And then I think it can sometimes just give away the wrong message. And I would think that for the most part, when people are pretty new to training, that success is really what you're after. You don't necessarily need to break the bank and go to failure, in my opinion.
Yeah, it causes a lot of damage, which is going to, like, if you train to failure, like real failure, the next day you're going to be trashed and you're probably not going to be able to get into good training sessions. So it's good to use, but maybe instead of using it on every set, use it on select sets of select exercises so that the next day of training, you're not too beat up where you can't get a really good training session in again. So it's definitely good, but in my opinion, overrated.
Yeah, and I'll just again echo everything you guys said, because if you're going to train the rest of the week, it's going to pull from your other workouts that are coming in the future.
The massive value of training to failure is you could have a shorter training session. So if you wanted to train some arms and you didn't have a lot of time, you got 15 minutes, you could probably do a handful of sets and do like the last set or two to failure and then be done with the workout. So that could be an advantage. But I also think for athletes that train to failure, I don't think it's a good idea to like be wearing your workout, 2-3 days after your training session. I don't think you want to be really sore going into jiu-jitsu or running and those kinds of things.
Agreed.
All right, next one. Bench press. Overrated, underrated?
I would say overrated. I think that
Okay.
I think that the bench press is an amazing exercise. Obviously, I've made a lot of money off the bench press. With my mention the slingshot.
Hold on.
And it's kind of, I guess, like something that I got known for, right? Was bench pressing. I think it's a really valuable exercise for me because of the skill set that I built with it, and I could still utilize that movement to lift heavy and to give me some goals and stuff like that. So for me, it's still a really good exercise for me to do. But I think when it comes to a barbell of a bench press, squat, or deadlift done in the traditional ways, I think they're all overrated. And the reason why I say that is I think that there's a lot of people that feel pressure that they have to do them in order to make progress, in order to be stronger, in order to be tough.
How much you bench, bro?
And then I hear people all the time saying like, oh man, I bench, but it hurts my shoulder. And I'm always like, okay, you can try a slingshot on, but like you honestly don't have to bench press, and you certainly don't have to try to bench press every single week.
Yeah, you do.
I definitely have a bias since the bench wasn't always my best. Out of all the lifts, my bench was the weakest. I still never benched 405. I think my best was 398, right? So I'm not even part of the club. But yeah, I definitely think there's other things you could do to build your chest other than bench pressing.
And to build strength in the upper body.
And to build strength in the upper body. So it's good, but I say overrated.
Yeah, I could be way off on this, but I think it's pretty safe to say getting good at bench pressing improves your bench pressing. Because if you're an athlete or something, I think there's many other movements that you should be focusing on to help. Like I don't think a 405 bench is going to help you be a better defensive tackle. I don't think it's going to help you tackle anybody, or you know what I mean? Like I understand it can help, but I think there's other movements that are going to help better serve you in whatever that arena is.
Go check out our episode of Landmine University.
Bam,
if you want some explosive stuff right there.
Yeah, or do some of those go-to movements.
Now to go on the other side of that, I think that bench press, squat, and deadlift are done in a traditional way with a barbell are some of the greatest exercises you can do in the gym. And they're somewhat underrated to some extent because our general pop still doesn't really know about them. There's a lot of women and a lot of older people that maybe haven't really explored those movements that much because the exercises are difficult and because they can kind of hurt. But the advantage of barbell movements is the amount of weight that you can handle. So to try to be able to handle an equivalent amount of weight with dumbbells just isn't really possible. Somebody that obtains strength to bench 315 under normal circumstances can't rep the 150-pound dumbbells. So I think a bench press has a lot of utility. And again, if we're looking at like trying to manage time while you're training and trying to build size, I think it's a really great exercise to learn. And it's a good thing to have a skill set with. But if you're looking for aesthetics and you just want to kind of have a stronger chest, I think there's a lot of other options in the gym and you don't have to necessarily bench press.
Cool. All right, next one. Full range of motion. Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated. Ooh, we got our first P.
I would go with an underrated.
Underrated.
You think it's underrated?
Yeah, I think that I think what people think is full range of motion isn't always even full range of motion. I think that a lot of the motions that we see in the gym are kind of adulterated. They're done like in these kind of shorter patterns. I do understand from a bodybuilding perspective that a lot of bodybuilders will use these kind of like pump sets, partial range of motions. Jay Cutler did this a lot in his training, but we have to sometimes keep in mind that when you watch Jay Cutler or Ronnie Coleman, Ronnie Coleman didn't lock his elbows out a lot of times on his dumbbell bench pressing. And it wasn't from lack of strength. He didn't want to wear down his joints, and he wanted to target his muscles. We have to realize that these guys are black belts when it comes to training and when it comes to, heavy lifting and lifting really in a particular way. These guys are like ninjas at what they do. They're really, really good at it. But on the topic of full range of motion, I think that people should try to express full range of motion in whatever ways they can and their own full range of motion.
Yes.
So there's no reason for me to go after your range of motion or Andrew's range of motion. I have to go after whatever in a coccyx squat or whatever that one's called, where you shift to the side.
The Cossack.
Cossack. Yeah, you go. The cocksack.
Is that the coccyx?
The tailbone
bone.
squat.
yeah. The tailbone squat.
Yeah.
The squat that you do to the side.
Yeah.
I'm not very proficient or very good at that one, but I need to. It would be a good idea for me to improve upon that. So when I do it, it might just look like a little baby step. It might look like a partial range, but over time, hopefully I can work myself into developing more range of motion. Last thing I'll say before I turn it over to you guys is something like a knees over toes type of mentality, I think is really great. Ben Patrick has done such a good job of introducing full range of motion with very, very light weights and or just body weight. So getting on a slant board and doing a squat and shoving the knees forward and getting your butt down as low as you can get your butt. I think that is a really awesome movement, especially if you feel really tight and especially if you normally are accustomed to kind of more of a powerlifting type squat where you're going down about halfway. You're not like really breaking parallel the way an Olympic lifter might. You might not be going down quite as low. I think a lot of those range of motions done with really light weights are really, really good to explore. And then on top of that, where I would use partial range of motion is I would use partial range of motion with more overloaded stuff like a back squat and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I'd say it's at this point perfectly rated because there's so many people that are sending good messages as far as full range of motion training. It's kind of like Mike Israetel, his team Full ROM, Ben Patrick, all those guys from ATG and how big that's gotten. We've put out a lot of content so far on like increasing your range of motion with certain movements. So I don't think it's lost on people how beneficial long range of motion can be. I mean, shoot, Matt Wenning, when he did his 525, when he was trying to do the squat for reps, what was the number one thing everyone was saying?
Right.
That's not full ROM. I think people understand like full ROM and its benefits, and the full ROM is great because it does allow you to get stronger in those ranges that you potentially wouldn't have strength in, and then you can express that, right? So I think at this point, I don't know. I think it's perfectly rated where it is, other than Joel Seedman.
You bring up a good point. There's a lot of there's a lot of people that are showing you examples of like, hey, if your hip hurts, try this movement.
Yeah.
And then they get in some like gangstered out full range of motion thing where you're like, how would somebody with an injured hip ever be able to fucking perform that? I'm always like baffled by that. They're like, oh, just try the split. And I'm like, what the
Does your hip hurt? Fucking
yeah. I'm always like, man, they're on a different level than where I'm at, I guess. But I do think that the information is out there, for people to check it out. Anyway, Andrew, what you got?
I kind of more on the same wavelength as you, because like the stuff I learned from Doug Brignoli, like sometimes people don't actually understand the range of motion because they don't really understand like what their muscles are supposed to do. So like a bent over row. Everybody likes doing that. They like to go heavy. They like to go from here to here. But what Doug Brignoli would explain is like how your lats are actually like kind of in a diagonal direction. So if you match that diagonal direction and you pull in and then turn in a little bit, you're getting full range of motion. Now, I understand somebody's doing bent over rows and they're going full range for that motion. So I'm kind of like on the it's almost perfectly rated, slightly underrated, just because the knowledge might not be there. But I think what Nsima said is like it's spot on. People do freak out if you're not, teabagging Satan on a squat. So it's on people's radar. So that's why it's not like highly overrated. But I think it's close. I think it's in the right direction. Put it that way.
What are your guys' thoughts on full range of motion and shorter ranges of motion? Do you think both should be explored, or like where do you guys sit with some of that?
I think there's a time and a place. For example, we've talked about box squats and how beneficial those can be for allowing you to work with a decent load and even heavier load on the squat, but then not fatiguing you so much that you can't go do something else. Because think about like, you know, if you're trying to do, let's say 3 plates for sets of 10 on a squat, depending on your strength level, let's just say it's 80%, and you do sets of 10 on the box squat, you're still going to be able to work with that load and get through a decent range of motion. And you'll find that after you finish that, you're still able to go do something like run or jiu-jitsu or whatever. But if you do full range of motion and multiple sets of that, you're going to be so beat up that you can't do anything else. So there is a benefit in doing partial ROM for certain movements, so that if you're an athlete that does multiple sports like yourself and you, Andrew, you have the energy to go do other things, and you're getting the benefit of the load in the gym.
What I love it for the teaching, like the educational side of things. Like if somebody is not very familiar, like a novice is in the gym and you're working back, you're working shoulders or something, and they're like, dude, I don't really necessarily feel it. I think that if you force somebody to do like 21s back in the day, we would do those all the time, because you can really feel the burn. You're like, oh, that's the stimulus that I'm supposed to feel. Whereas, you know, everybody else, they can just go and do the full range of motion, still get that same stimulus or that same burn. For somebody that's newer, I think it's a really good teaching tool to help get them to be like, look, this is what you're supposed to feel, because you can kind of get them there a little bit quicker at times, because you're really you're keeping the time under tension, and you're keeping those reps really quick to where they can get kind of like a solid burnout.
One thing I want to share before we go on to the next thing is, on these topics, if you really like these things, don't let us disrupt what you enjoy. You know, if you really, really like it, then really, really do it. It just might be a good idea to have in the back of your head that there's always another side of the story, and that a lot of times the answer lies in the middle. What else you got, Andrew?
Over, under on stretching.
Let's see. I would go with
Going underrated.
Same.
Bias, baby. I love this bias.
I'll kick this off by just simply saying, like, I think that a lot of people that like to lift, they don't love to spend the time to stretch. A lot of people. And then there's different ideas about stretching. Like some people are like, well, I do more like range of motion stuff, or I do more mobility stuff than I do like actual stretching. But just in my own experience, I mean, I've been somebody that has been dealing with leg cramps for as long as I can remember. From the time I played football when I was a little kid, whether it was track or even powerlifting, I'd end up getting like leg cramps a lot of times in the middle of the night. And I'm always trying to hydrate, always trying to do all these things. And ultimately, it's the area is not used to whatever the movements are that I'm doing, whether it be running or squatting. I'm really challenging these muscles, and they would just get super tight. So they would get stretched from the exercise I was doing, and then at night they would, start to tighten back up. And that's a lot of times when I would get uncomfortable and get a cramp. It's almost like a toe cramp. You do some stretches on the floor, or you go swimming or something like that, and you get a weird toe cramp. Those kind of cramps aren't necessarily like a hydration issue. It's usually the fact that your body's not used to some of these positions or activities that you're doing. So I did a lot of stretching, for me anyway. I did a lot of stretching periodically throughout the day going into the Boston Marathon. I even stretched during the marathon, and now I'm stretching periodically throughout the day. I don't do a lot of different stretches. I need to actually start to stretch my upper body. It's mainly all lower body stuff. But I didn't have one cramp. I didn't have one symptom of a cramp during those 26 miles. I didn't have one cramp after. I didn't have one cramp before. So I'm a big proponent, and I'm convinced that it can be really helpful.
Yeah, there's so many different types of stretching. You guys should go check out Human Garage. We did an episode with Human Garage, and all of their fascial maneuvers or fascial stretching is free. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff they post that I'm just like, it's kind of weird, kind of odd. I don't know if I buy it. But if you go to their page and you go look at some of their, because again, all their maneuvers are free, and you actually go try some of those things, you'll find afterwards, if you feel tightness in a certain area, it might have gone away, right? There's passive stretching, right, which a lot of people think is useless. There's active stretching. But the thing is stretching is one of those things that I feel as if some people think that if you're not flexible, you're just never going to be flexible. And a lot of individuals that, like, let's say they only focus on strength training, or they've gotten really far in strength training, there are people who are like, yeah, stretching is going to be that great for you. You don't need to do it. It's going to make you weaker. And the thing is like, yeah, you don't maybe need to be that flexible to do a conventional deadlift or a deadlift or a bench or a squat. But when you actually start to do other things outside of just in the strength world of those movements, you're going to find that maybe your lack of mobility in certain areas limits you. Like if you went to go try starting out some sprinting, or you went to go do some jiu-jitsu, or even if you wanted to go try some yoga. And one thing is like, I find that because I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 7 years, I've found a lot of people say, oh, you're super flexible. And it's something that I've worked on, and it's something that's played in really well to the way that I do that sport. It's an advantage for me because of that flexibility that I've managed to train. Because now when I get in those positions that would injure somebody else, my body is comfortable being there. There's certain areas in jiu-jitsu where like you'll get into a split position where your legs are all the way out, or your arm is going to be all the way back here, or your arm is going to be in front of your face. And if I was really tight, I would be in so much pain, or I'd be tapping to certain things. But since my body can move in those ranges, I feel safe, and my body is safe. So that's why I think like, okay, for daily life, even daily life, if you trip and you fall, you land in a weird position. If your body is safe, getting into that position, you feel comfortable enough, you might not pull something. You might not tear something. We actually talked about this topic with Kelly Starrett and Julia Starrett when they came on the podcast. They mentioned the same things. It allows you to be safe in those ranges of motion that typically would cause you injury. So when people say, like, people like to get on the bag of like, oh, stretching doesn't prevent injury, it can if it allows you to be able to be safe in those ranges of motion that you typically aren't safe in. So I think it's underrated, and it's good to maybe take some time to stretch a little bit.
Who's your friend that's doing Pilates?
Ryan Doris. If you type in the Natty Pro on Instagram,
He looks great doing that.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
man, I want to try that.
My guy's doing reformer Pilates.
Yeah.
You know, and
How cool. Like, how cool to be open-minded for that. And I know that Joe Rogan's talked a lot about yoga, and there's been people that talk bad about yoga, but you know, if you can get a practice, I guess you kind of think of things this way. Like, one of the huge benefits of something like stretching is it puts you into the present moment, you know, and it puts you into having a practice where hopefully you're away from your phone for a few minutes and you're just concentrated on yourself. So it's meditative as well. But if you look at some of these clips of Ryan, you said, right?
Yeah, Ryan.
Look at some of these clips of Ryan doing some of these drills. I mean, it looks like it would be super beneficial for anybody.
yeah, go to like something where you see him on the reformer, because like, and you
This
can.
one right here?
Yeah, that's the reformer. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And there's other stuff that he does with his legs, but like,
Ooh.
yeah.
That's got to be like some of this stuff, it looks pretty easy, but at the same time, you're like, nah, that's a trick. That's going to be fucking hard as hell.
And I'd say Ryan is a guy who like, he has very, his posts when he talks about these things are very information dense because he goes deep. He's been a pro natural bodybuilder for years. And then when he started Pilates, he was like, you know what? I want to dive in deep. So he's actually gotten multiple certifications within Pilates too. Cool. And as a bodybuilder who this man has supreme mind muscle connection. Like he's amazing bodybuilder, amazing poser. He's like, God, like the amount of muscle activation I get doing different things within Pilates, it's crazy. So with a guy with that type of experience, it's like, damn, this Pilates stuff, it has a place. I'm like, damn, dude, good for you. I really want to try it out.
Have you guys done yoga before?
I've done yoga, yeah.
Andrew,
Like once or twice, like, yeah, nothing too crazy though.
So, I mean, I don't know what your experiences were, but you know, you lay down on a mat, you know, it's dark. You get to just chill the fuck out for a little while. So, you know, choose your yoga wisely, because there's like different classes. Sometimes they're like working out. And other times you can kind of do something that's a little bit more relaxing. But I found it to be, aside from the stretching thing, it's just an opportunity to like calm down and meditate. So even if you're just stretching on your own, you can kind of think of it as a meditative practice as well.
Yeah, I passed out when I did it. I fell asleep.
There you go. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I was really deep into it. But yeah, real quick with stretching, I mean, it essentially saved my life. Like with my back pain and stuff, I started following the stuff from Goda, and it totally just like suppressed the pain, you know, and now to get out of pain, you know, I've been doing a lot more stuff, but like it totally changed, and I still do it every day. Every day I touch the mat, I run through all my Goda stretches, and then I, you know, start the jiu-jitsuing.
Some of the new people don't know what he's talking about. GOATA. We also did a podcast with them, greatest of all time athletes. Yeah, check that out too.
And that's the stretching I've been doing. I've been doing the bolt, and I've been doing the child rockers and the pigeon type thing that they do on the ground. I've been doing a bunch of that kind of stuff.
Heck yeah.
Power Project family, your normal shoes are making you weak. This is why I partner with Vivo Barefoot Shoes, because they have a wide toe box, they're flat, and they're flexible. So with every single step you're taking, if you're taking a 10-minute walk outside or when you're working out in the gym, your feet are able to do what they're supposed to do in this shoe. They have tons of options for hiking, running, training in the gym, chilling and relaxing, casual shoes for if you're out on a date. You need to check them out. And Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at vivobarefoot.com/powerproject, and you guys will receive 15% off your order automatically. Again, vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. All right, next one, functional training. I'm surprised. Okay.
Well, how do you when you think of the term functional training, what do you think about, Mark?
I just don't really like the word functional because I think that a lot of times what's labeled as not functional is like bodybuilding.
Yes.
And I'm like,
Okay.
I see
what you're saying.
bodybuilding is, it seems pretty functional to me. I don't really think that there's, look at knees over toes, right? That was a function that we weren't supposed to do. We weren't supposed to have the knee go over the toe. You're going to get hurt. You're going to tear your ACL or whatever. So I think a lot of times these movements that we do in the gym, somewhere along the lines, people examined some of them and they said, these are really good, like do these, but these are all really bad. And I do believe that, if you're trying to produce as much force as possible by swinging a baseball bat or by shooting a goal, like in hockey, doing, sprinting, like doing certain things, like you're going to have to follow some of the rules. You're going to have to follow some sort of protocol. But I don't even really believe that there's any non-functional movements. Like somebody show me one. Show me a movement that you think is like non-functional, and let's try to break it down. No matter how obscure or weird it would be, even if you were twisting, if you were to pick up a barbell and you twisted as a form of deadlift, the way the guy did in Family Guy, I would be like, well, if you just did it with lighter weights, to me, it has some function. So yeah, I don't really like the word functional.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly it. When people kind of think of functional training, when they're talking about functional training, they're like, oh, a bicep curl isn't functional because you're not usually going to do something like that with your bicep outside or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. But just because you're getting stronger in certain areas when you do things within bodybuilding doesn't mean that you can't move well. The one reason why people reference bodybuilders whenever they think of that's not functional is because a lot of people that maybe do bodybuilding don't do anything else.
That's kind of all they might do.
That's all they might do. So these motions, this motion.
And then now you're kind of here and you have a hard time,
bending down and doing all this type of stuff. But when someone uses bodybuilding in concordance with, like, let's say they still do things like maybe they run every now and then, or they do things that allow them to express a bigger range of motion, those people move really well. But they're just jacked now. You can't tell me they're not functional, right? So I think that, like, for example, functional patterns is great, but there's an aspect of like, it's this and nothing else. And I don't necessarily buy that because I know people, and myself included, that do quite a few things. And there's nothing non-functional about the way you can move, as long as you have other things that allow you to express your body in different ways.
Yeah, Jimmy House looks pretty fucking jacked. You look pretty damn jacked. You can move, and you guys can do jiu-jitsu. And yeah, Jimmy's always like lifting. That guy's on it all the time, man.
He's in Austin, Texas now. He trains with, I think he's training with Danaher guys.
Good for him. That's awesome.
Yeah. I can't add anything to it. You guys crushed it on that one. All right. So next fitnessy topic, running / cardio. What do you guys got? Perfectly rated for Nsima. Perfectly
as well,
all around.
Damn it! I want us to have some opposite viewpoints on this shit
and just start getting real mad at each other.
You're wrong.
I think the reason why I say this is because there's a lot of people that kind of opened up the doors on this, right, to show people that there's a lot of hybrid athletes. I think Steffi Cohen, I think her and her husband at the time, Hayden, they kind of put that name forward, hybrid, and they helped create a lot of hybrid people that were not only powerlifting but were also like Olympic lifting. And then more recently, we started to see people that like weren't just doing variations of lifting. They were doing other sports. And now how many fitness people are in jiu-jitsu? How many fitness people do we see that are like running? It seems like there's a lot of good diversity. And you got Nick Bear, someone like myself. I did powerlifting, bodybuilding, and now I've been running. So you're starting to see some good variation, and the runners are starting to learn the importance of lifting. It seemed like they started learning that probably a while back. I think CrossFit has played into this quite a bit too.
Yeah.
Because of the engine and the motor that those people have. And, one of the CrossFit kind of monikers was, show me someone that can squat 600 pounds and I'll show you someone that can't run a 6-minute mile and so forth, right? So you try to, now we've seen people squat, I think I've seen people squat 500 pounds and run 5-minute miles. That one dude that works with Nick Bear, don't have his name in my head at the moment, but
That young kid, right?
Yeah.
Nathan French?
Nathan French.
Well,
No.
Nathan French has like done some wild stuff, but he doesn't squat 500 pounds. But he does bench like 405, and he's an animal. There's the other guy that works with Nick, but he's squatted 500 pounds, and I want to say immediately after ran a 5 minutes. Something, it's just absurd. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So we're seeing that, and even within our own gym, Wild Hunt Conditioning, he ran 50 miles and deadlifted 520 pounds in the same day.
Yeah. I think running,
James
Pierrat, yeah. Running has been something that people have been doing for a long time outside of like the fitness industry and even within it. But like you see so many people doing multiple modalities now, and it's not, the fact is just because you do running or just because you do jiu-jitsu doesn't mean you're going to be sacrificing a lot of muscle. It's about how you deal with these things, right? You've been running for a while and you're still 230. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time. I'm still 250 and my body feels better than ever, right? So and we also know that a better engine can also help you gain more muscle in the long run because you're going to be able to, you're going to be able to do more in the gym because you're more fit. So if anything, a bit of running or whatever cardio you choose can help you get bigger if you're trying to get bigger.
I think you said something that's really important. I think all three of us, minus a little bump or bruise here and there, I think all three of us feel better than we've ever felt before.
Yeah, 100%.
Pretty wild, especially like you just started jiu-jitsu. I mean, I know it took you a while to like start to feel a little bit better because it beats the fuck out of you in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty remarkable. It's not like we're getting younger, but we feel younger. We feel better.
I haven't felt this good for over a decade. Like I feel great right now. So I'm gonna actually say underrated only because from my point of view and because I'm late to the party. I've never done cardio this on a, like if you consider jiu-jitsu cardio, I've never done cardio on a regular basis for this long, and it's only been a little bit over 6 months, right, where I'm doing it multiple times a week. But because of that, like I can eat so much more and like I don't gain weight. The physique changes are happening like without trying, which is like amazing, right? I'm doing a thing that I love to do. I'm getting a ridiculous sweat going. And yes, I am burning out multiple muscles, but at the end of the mat session, it's a cardio session, and I'm doing that for 2 hours, 3 times a week.
Cardio stretch session with some strength involved too, right?
Yeah, all of the above. And so, like I said, I feel like I'm late to the party because before it was like, oh, if I'm going to try to cut weight, I'm going to get on a Stairmaster and do that for a little bit. But it was never running. It was never, I mean, I would walk too, but it was never to this intense level of intensity. So I'm going to say underrated because I just think all the things that I was like trying to, I guess, find a loophole for, like with my physique and stuff, like all I had to do was just a little bit more cardio.
Yeah.
That was the answer. Instead, I was like trying to like hack things and like check my macros and all this shit, which we'll probably talk about in a little bit. All I had to do is just a little bit more cardio.
Nice.
Underrated or overrated jiu-jitsu? I'm going to go here.
I'm going underrated.
Okay.
I just think it's, I would imagine that I know that people that watch the show sometimes get annoyed because we talk about it. I love jiu-jitsu.
We get paid by jiu-jitsu every time we mention it. So.
I've been following jiu-jitsu stuff for a long time. I love the UFC. I just am not a participant at the moment, but I will be at some point. But I still think it's always amazing. I was watching a video the other day of Joe Rogan. was just having a conversation with somebody, and I think it got like a little tense, but I was just looking at the way he was standing, and this is a long time ago. He was still so calm, just the way he was standing, and I'm like, that's a really cool thing. Like, of course he's going to stand that way. He could kick harder than almost anybody in the history of the world. So he's pretty confident that if something's to go down, then he has the capacity for that. So I think people being able to protect themselves, and you still never know. You still never know who the fuck you're dealing with. You never know how many other people are around. So it's the streets, and you don't know what the fuck is going to happen. But it must feel good to know that, hey, look, I'm pretty. At least I think I'm pretty safe. I can handle myself, and I can get out of the situation if I need to.
Yeah, man. I know you guys hear us talk about it a lot, and a lot of people talk about jiu-jitsu, but I still think it's somewhat underrated because of all of the benefits outside of just obviously maybe being able to defend yourself it gives you. In the gym, you're doing certain movements, but in jiu-jitsu, you're now working against the weight of somebody else. Your body's doing all these variable things that you can't necessarily, you're not calculating, right? In a squat, you know what you're about to do. In a clean, you know what you're going to be doing. In jiu-jitsu, because you're dealing with another person now, you have to train reflexes. Your reflexes are getting better because now you're acting based upon somebody else, not just based upon an object. So over time, that's a big deal. That's something that you usually don't get with any other workout type of stuff that you do. And then like the bodily gains, the flexibility gains that you get over time because you're probably going to be moving better. I see people that are 60, 70, 80 years old still doing it. I really do think it's like a cool lifelong practice that people will be able to do along with anything else they choose to do.
The community aspect of it too. I mean, like I have some, like, they're like my best friends now, right? Like we're always sending like a bunch of dick jokes to each other and stuff like that. Like
you can send those our way too.
No, we do. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Our text thread can't get out. But so there's that aspect, right? There's like the community side of it. But then I forgot what podcast it was. Somebody sent me like a reel on Instagram. And it was they were asking each other, like, what percentage of the population do you think trains jiu-jitsu? And they're like, fuck, like 1%, like shit, maybe less than that. It's like, okay, let's go with 1%. Like, okay, now out of that 1%, like, so that means like if you're the one guy out of like 100 people, you can kind of control almost anybody if you needed to. And it's like, damn, that's a crazy like thought, you know, like, wow, we could be like that very minimal 1% of 1%ers just because we, are somewhat proficient at jiu-jitsu.
And most don't make it to blue belt. That's the thing. Like a lot of people may start, but because of how frustrating it is to be a white belt, most people don't make it a blue. So just make it a blue and you're good, homie.
And just wear your belt when you're out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, tie that shit around you.
You gotta wear all the apparel.
I'd be like, I'm walking on the other side of the street.
We were
got a purple belt on, man. I'm gonna go to the other side of the street.
Did you guys watch The Office?
I've watched The Office a lot. Yeah.
You remember the episode where Dwight had his purple belt in whatever? He was like walking around the office. I'm a purple belt. And
that's great.
It was so funny.
I gotta check that out.
Power Project family, quality sleep can make everything with your health and fitness easier, which is why we've partnered with Hostage Tape. Now, we've been talking about mouth tape for years and nasal breathing for years. But one of the problems that we've had with tape is we all like to rock facial hair, and a lot of the mouth tapes we would use would fall off of our face at night. Hostage Tape doesn't fall off your face if you have a beard or if you're not a man and you don't. I'm joking. You don't need a beard, right? But either way, Hostage Tape makes sense. It'll stick to your face when you're asleep. You'll have better quality sleep because you're breathing through your nose all night long. It is a no-brainer. And if you head to hostagetape.com/Power Project, you'll be able to get the Power Project annual deal, which is a year's supply of Hostage Tape for 55 cents a day. You'll be saving $150 on the typical yearly deal. You're going to get 2 free tins and a blindfold. It's a no-brainer. So head there right now and get yourself some Hostage Tape. Links in the description along with the podcast show notes. Shut your fucking mouth when you sleep. Enjoy the show.
Cool. All right. That was fantastic. Let's switch it up to nutrition. So first topic, cholesterol. Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated. Get your... Overrated, perfectly rated. Dun, dun, dun. I'm going with overrated, but go ahead.
Overrated.
I just think it's overrated because of the reasons why people are concerned about cholesterol. It's usually related to heart disease, and to try to pin heart disease just on cholesterol is a mistake. You got to look at other factors, triglycerides. I know we've done episodes. I can't remember everyone's name that we we've interviewed a lot of people.
Sure.
I know we talked to Sean Baker and Paul Saladino. I talked to both of them in one particular podcast where I asked both of them and they had their takes on it and everything. Dietary cholesterol versus the cholesterol in your body versus what are real concerns for your heart. And it doesn't appear that there's a lot of evidence showing that cholesterol is necessarily bad for your heart. It matters what kind of cholesterol. And even when you break down LDL, HDL, you have to go in a deeper dive and get other tests done to see what the particle sizes of those are. So it's complicated in a lot of ways, unfortunately. It does make sense to try to have the best health practices you can for all of your organs, but especially your heart. But I think that people are they think that because their doctor said that they have high bad cholesterol, that they're in some really compromised position.
Or that they need to just stop eating fat.
They need to stop eating fat. They need to stop eating red meat. They need to stop eating eggs, things that have cholesterol in it. In my opinion, that's just not the case.
Yeah. The reason why I said perfectly rated is because now, like within these past 5 years, there are many people who are the opposite voice on cholesterol. They're not saying it's something that you don't need to pay attention to, but they're saying you might want to pay attention to this for different reasons or do different things as far as your cholesterol is concerned. Got Gabriel Lyons, Sean Baker, Saladino, what's his name that was just on the podcast? Anthony Chaffee.
There you go. He created Chaffles.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of people who are like now coming about it and giving you different information on it. So it's like it's being evened out. So that's why I said perfectly rated. But yeah.
I think it's just a lot of, I guess, confusion still. Like, oh, my cholesterol's high and I can't eat more cholesterol. Like I don't personally don't know how it works. I don't think it works that way. Like if I drank testosterone, does that mean my testosterone level is going to go up? Again, don't know if that actually would happen, but I would imagine that's probably not the best route to take. So with cholesterol, like with eggs being high in cholesterol, whatever high means, I don't think that's really going to affect my cholesterol. And by the way, my cholesterol is like a little bit high, but it's again, but what does that even mean though? Like it was high on this day that I probably ate 10 eggs. But does that mean that the 10 eggs caused it? And then if I go test within an hour, is it still going to be high? And then
it changes a lot. Yeah.
And then it's high because of this scale. Now, is that scale high or low? Like I just,
what's the scale for?
What does it even mean? So
it's usually
like,
so you can get prescribed stuff.
It might be conveniently rated so that way you get prescribed something. So I think maybe misinformation is not the correct word. I just think we kind of don't know what the hell we're doing. And so again, that's I feel like it's overrated. And that's coming from somebody whose dad supposedly had high cholesterol and had to get like a triple heart bypass surgery. And the doctor said it's because you naturally produce a lot of cholesterol. And again, I don't know what the hell that even means. You know, like
it's actually a good thing. It's like helpful for your vitamin D levels. It's helpful for your testosterone levels as well.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of benefits to cholesterol. I would also just say when people have unhealthy practices, most of the unhealthy practices they're all kind of in the same gamut or same realm. And it usually means that people are eating processed foods and it's hard to stop eating processed foods and people tend to overeat. So if you're overeating, you're not sleeping well, your blood pressure's high, there really is a lot of concern around your cholesterol and other health markers of your heart. And you need to work on starting to obtain better habits.
And that's the other thing. We always bring it back to this, like, who was this study done on? Was it done on people like Nsima? Like, probably not, because he's one of a kind. But like, so for we
do need to run some tests on that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Let's figure this thing out over here.
Let's dissect this.
My blood work from Eric's coming back soon. I'm curious.
Yeah, but what I was getting at is like, is my cholesterol high for somebody that sits on the couch all day? Or is it fairly normal for somebody who's active? So, yeah.
Right. What do we got next?
We got keto. Overrated, underrated. Yeah. What do you guys think?
That's a tough one.
Mark says underrated, and Nsima's thinking about it. I will say underrated. Perfect. Okay, I like it. What you got, Nsima? No, you first. You got it perfectly rated.
I think so. Like all these diets go through their waves, and keto has had a big wave. And it's like now you have these keto options in stores. You have keto options in Costco and popular. Like people know what the ketogenic diet is. Even my mom has tried and done keto. My aunt, who doesn't pay attention to anything as far as the fitness industry, has like done keto and has utilized it. So I think it's perfectly rated because a lot of people see that you can do it. Some people try to perpetually stay in ketosis, and maybe they go a little bit far down there. But I think people know about it at this point. It's not something that's necessarily seen as, oh, keto is bad, because people used to think keto is bad and it's not something you should do. So
I dig it.
Yeah, I think keto, it went up on like a rise for a while. I think it was like the most searched thing on the internet for maybe like a year or two, a couple years back. But I also think the properties of what a ketogenic diet does, I think, are still underrated. A ketogenic diet, and someone will probably clip this, but a ketogenic diet mimics fasting. That's one of the beauties of it. And so there's a lot of people that will go to war about fasting and talk about how great fasting is, but then they'll also talk about how stupid they think keto is. And in my opinion, fasting and keto are kind of intertwined. And I actually think that you don't necessarily, I know like there's a clinical ketogenic diet where you're on some crazy amounts of fat. I don't necessarily agree a ton with that, where it's a 1-to-1 ratio of fat to protein. So you have 1 gram of fat per every gram of protein-ish that you eat is what's going to keep you in a ketogenic state. That is a little bit of a weird diet. It's a little bit hard to follow. And if you're someone that exercises once a day or twice a day, it's really hard to subscribe to unless you're going to use fasting as well. Because it's just disgusting to like eat like eggs and bacon and then try to go train. It just takes too long to digest all that stuff. So you'd have to eat that later in the day, which is fine, and that can be beneficial. But I hear the ketogenic diet still getting bashed, and I still utilize principles of a ketogenic diet, which this might sound a little foreign or weird to people, but I still do keto like every day. Now, typically you would push keto into like, it's this like every day for at least a week or two, you're not eating any carbohydrates. I don't actually do that, but I still have ketogenic meals. So I'll have like the last meal of the day, a lot of times is ketogenic for me, and the first meal of the day is ketogenic for me, which the reason why I'm doing that is to continue my fast and continue with fasting. I think you'll see more information if you listen to like Walter Longo and some of these guys that do a lot of research on fasting and intermittent fasting. You're going to see that I think there'll be more and more evidence that this is actually a pretty good way of doing things. And so in my opinion, I still think that ketogenic diets, I think, are incredible. I mean, the fact that they can solve certain things for certain people that have diseases or have seizures and stuff, like to me, I'm like, man, there's some kids out there that have these really violent seizures, and the seizures are so bad. Sometimes kids will, you can die from it. Sometimes kids will get brain damage from it. But like, what is it about the ketogenic diet and producing these ketones that like offsets that and calms some of these people down? That is really some fascinating stuff. Dominic D'Agostino has done such a good job researching the ketogenic diet, and I'm a fan, so of course I'm going to be preaching about it. But I've always liked it.
I do think real quick that keto and going like a lower carbohydrate can be super beneficial for a majority of people that are used to eating a lot of carbs.
Yeah, you went a lot lower carb over the years, right?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, when I was focused on bodybuilding, like I was under the impression that I have to eat 400 grams of carbs, et cetera, to be able to perform. And that was something that I did for a long time. And then I was like, you know what? Let me try low carb. Let me try keto. Let me see how my body feels. It took me a little bit to get used to it. But then when I did get used to it and I brought a little bit of carbohydrates back, I'm like, I don't need that many carbohydrates to be able to perform. So I do think it could help people maybe lose a little bit of their high carbohydrate dependence or the feeling of needing excessive carbohydrates to have high performance in the gym or in sport. Just something you might want to try out.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say I think it's underrated because a Flying Dutchman can technically be keto, and you can order a bunch of those and still be in a
In-N-Out burger.
Yeah, ketogenic diet. All right. Anyway, moving forward. Next, the Carnivore Diet. Overrated, underrated, perfectly rated. Overrated from Nsima.
I'm trying not to have an upside down.
Overrated. Oh, okay.
Whoa, you think it's overrated too?
This is great.
This is interesting.
Just in a sense that, like, I think similarly to the ketogenic diet, I don't think you have to prescribe to something and stuff yourself into this box. Now, if you're somebody that's obese and really struggled with your diet for a long time, maybe you do have to have like really, really hard lines.
Yeah.
Joe Sullivan on our show, he mentioned once you know the rules, then you can break them. So once you know the rules of dieting, then you can kind of flirt with some other things and you can go off plan here and there safely and not have any problems. But I think being like super carnivore and being like against vegetables, I think it's still too far. And I personally, you know, after doing 100 days of a carnivore diet, didn't notice any residual extra benefits from being like more carnivore versus being slightly less carnivore.
Yeah.
Still a huge portion of my diet is through proteins and fats that are animal based. I mean, if somebody that ate like a normal-ish diet hung out with me for a while, they'd be like, this is kind of crazy how much like meat and how much meat this guy eats, like
just gobbling meat all day long.
Exactly. Sucking it down. So yeah, I still kind of subscribe to some of it, but I still think that it's overrated in the sense like there's people that probably believe, there's people probably right now on a carnivore diet that believe that they're gonna exponentially get leaner and lose more weight the harder that they carnivore.
Yeah, dog. Like the plants are trying to kill you, right? Or like that apple will turn into 10. Like, nah, like chill out, yo. One thing is if you have autoimmune issues or if you do have some like maybe gut issues, a lot of people that the carnivore diet's been super helpful, skin issues, because you're eliminating a majority of things, right? But then let's just remember you can add certain things back to see if is this actually a problem for me or is this a problem for me? So it is super beneficial, but there are some people who like, I mean, some people are like, it is the optimal human diet. We were only made to eat meat and anything else is like, hey, chill the fuck out. Eat some apples, dog. Or if it's not a big deal to eat fruit. I eat fruit every day now and I love it. And I'm not binging on fruit. I eat some. I feel full. I'm good. You remember the lady that we had a podcast where someone would like overeat peaches. I'm like, damn.
Well, it wasn't that. It was just that one peach could lead to donuts or some shit like that. It's like, I don't think it's quite that bad.
Yo, yeah.
Eating
like
that peach.
I do love that. But I don't know. Avoiding fruit just seems kind of odd. I mean,
it's a little extreme, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I know some people be like, the fruit now is not the same as the fruit we, but it's like, still though. Like,
yeah.
It's fruit.
It seems disappointing, like the old fruit, like it's like a little tiny thing. It's like probably didn't have much flavor. Probably kind of sucked.
Probably sucked. I would say I just overrated real quick just because, everything you guys just said, but also like, it gave me the shits and I didn't like that. And it just wasn't a fun diet for me. So that's all I'm going to say on that.
Again, though, like all of us have mentioned this, but like it is good to try some of these things out because there are some days, and I think this might be the same for you too, but there are some days where I don't eat any carbs. There's some days where I'm carnivore because I just don't feel like eating carbs that day. So again, all of these diets are fucking tools in your tool belt that you can pull from anytime.
I agree.
Yeah, speaking of tools, fasting, overrated, underrated, perfectly rated. Underrated.
Bias.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all
I'm
biased.
still trying to figure out my papers over here.
I
only have 2 of them, but
oh man, the P's perfectly rated.
I know. Yeah, fasting I think is a great practice. Again, I think that unfortunately when the information gets out on these things, that the information gets like carried around and we're not sure sometimes whether someone's talking about like they're going to fast for a full day, or if they're using intermittent fasting. Sometimes we're not really sure. There's people that use different words to describe it. I would also just kind of say that there's some people that talk about like eating in a particular like a window of time. I do think a window of time, now you got to be careful with your mindset around that. Like, I don't think it's a good idea to think to yourself, oh, I'm going to eat for 12 hours. Like that's a lot of hours of eating. However, there's a lot of great research. And if you listen to Huberman, he had some great guests on. He had Sachin Panda on, and that's an amazing podcast. And basically what he boiled it down to, Sachin Panda, who researches this more than anybody pretty much in the history of the world, he came to realize like 12 and 12 is good. So 12 hours of eating, 12 hours of not eating. How reasonable is that? Like you can have your child do that. You can have your 7-year-old kid do that. And it's not going to do anything negative to them. And so I think that fasting, even though there's a lot of great information on it out there, I still kind of think in a lot of ways it's still underrated, because I think that people maybe don't realize that there's so many different ways to use it.
Yes.
Like you could work out at 8 in the morning and then you could eat at around 10, fuel up, feel really good. And then you could fast until 5 or 6 p.m. Like that's a form of fasting. Just because you ate, you had a break fast, you had something that broke your fast for a little bit, doesn't mean that you're not fasting. Anytime you're not eating, you're fasting. And so I think that you can fast whatever ways you'd like.
You know, the thing I really love about fasting is what it can cause in terms of your habit change long term. Fasting isn't magic. You know, a lot of things still come down to, you know, eating a certain amount of calories. It's not like, you know, you can eat 5,000 calories, but because it was in your 8-hour eating window, that's going to act differently. No, but I was a person who could eat and I still can eat so much food. And every single day I'd wake up and be like, oh, I got to eat. A few hours later, I needed my snack. A few hours later, I needed another meal. I needed a snack, right? And it was whenever I would go on a diet and get ready for a bodybuilding show or something, whenever I'd eat smaller amounts of food, I would feel horrible.
Just piss you off.
It would piss me off being a deficit of calories. When I started fasting, it was still frustrating. But over time, when I would maybe fast until 4 p.m. and then eat from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. or whatever, just so that my eating window would be then. Very frustrating initially, but then I got used to not eating for a period of time. And then that just became like, wow, I've gone 20 hours today. I'm not saying you should do a 20-hour fast, but like over time, I was like, I wasn't annoyed at being hungry. And I think what fasting does for many people who give it the chance is it allows them to be okay with hunger. And it's not something that you have to act on all the time. So now, like, I don't fast every day and I don't fast 20 hours every single day or anything like that. But when I'm not eating, I'm not fiending for food, which is part of the reason why now I'm able to stay lean so easily. Like I'm a deficit on some days, I'm eating more on some days, because my habit of eating when I feel a little bit hungry is gone. I think that's the big thing it can cause. It changes the way you look at hunger and food.
It allows you to take away some calories just way easier than other eating protocols.
Yeah, and that's not magic, but like that changes you and your response to those things.
Like if we just took away like 800 calories from you, but you ate in the morning and you were going to be hungry and distracted throughout the day, kind of, right?
Oh, yeah. If I was eating all day long, yeah. Usually after I have my first meal, I'm usually thinking about food a little bit later. But now, like, no, I could take away 800 calories. I could shred down very easily just because I'm eating more food in a certain period of time. And I am okay in those periods of times where I haven't eaten, right? Again, this is coming from someone who used to eat all the time. I was 270, bro. Right? Like, so again, a lot of people, like I think Jeff Nippert and Layne were like, it's overrated. I totally disagree. And this is, again, I'm from the bodybuilding background where you got to build as much muscle as possible. And I still think you can build good. I mean, they've shown like 16-8. I think the 16-hour fasting, 8 hours eating really doesn't have a difference versus eating all day long, right? So 12-12, same type of deal. Not that big of a deal by not eating, but it can change your habits. Sorry for going on so long.
No, that's great. My camera just died, but I would agree on the habit side really quick because for me personally, so it's habits, and it taught me how to like eat proper food. So instead of going throughout the entire day, my camera's back, of like, oh, let me like picture office setting where somebody's like, oh, I'm going to go to the vending machine and get some Doritos and shit. It's like, well, now your taste buds are fried. So, of course, when you leave work, you don't want to go home and cook normal food. You want to hit the drive-through. So what it did for me was it taught me how to be hungry for the right things. So it taught me how to be okay with hunger, and it taught me how to be okay with eating the right foods. And so now it's like I will do the 2 meals a day where it's a big, 8 eggs for breakfast and then big steak when I get home. But that's all I eat throughout the entire day. I might have a protein bar here and there. I'll have a protein shake maybe after dinner. But just eating those two things, so I call it a split fast. It's not really a split fast, but that's just what I call it.
Yeah.
And so that's been working. But like today, I went and trained jiu-jitsu, moved around in the gym a tiny bit, and I haven't eaten today. And I kind of forgot. I thought I did eat. So I'm feeling fine. And now I thought about it. I'm like, ooh, I am hungry. Like, no, I'm okay. And that hunger went away already. So like I might just kind of keep this going throughout the day until I get home. I just want to make sure I get enough energy in for, jiu-jitsu tomorrow. So we'll see where I end up. But yeah, no, it's great.
There's so many ways to simply utilize fasting. I mean, somebody could just not eat for a day, which sounds like a lot, but also for a particular person that maybe has struggled before, that might wipe out 3,000 calories, right? That might wipe out 3,000 calories for that day. And I'm not saying, the key with fasting is you have to pretend that it never happened.
Yeah.
So you did just get robbed of 3,000 calories. It's not time to double down and make sure you get those calories back. But if you just resume to normal eating, I think Greg Glassman was telling me he started eating every other day for a while. And he just eats normal. Like he has, tacos and burritos, and he eats other types of foods. And it's like there's a lot of interesting protocols. It just gives you a lot of options and help you to really hone in your hunger.
Got it.
What's up, Power Project family? It's time to stop dressing like you're a fucking preschooler and step your game up by checking out Vuori clothing. Now, I'm not one to talk. I wear a fucking pink hat that has a dog on it, but at the end of the day, at least my shirt and shorts are popping. So head to Vuori because they have great stuff for your top and your bottom. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to vuori.com/power project. That's VUORI.com/power project, and you guys will automatically receive 20% off your order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes. Let's get back to the podcast. All right, cool. Next one, tracking your macros / if it fits your macros. What are you guys thinking? Underrated? Way to go, Marky Moo.
Wow, that's actually very interesting. I was expecting you to say over.
Me too.
All right, go for it. What's up?
Well, I think, look, the country is very, very fat. Right? we have a really hard time of not only losing weight, but even a harder time trying to keep the weight off.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe sometimes people will try a little bit of diet, a little bit of habit stuff, and they might lose 20 pounds. I mean, we know a lot of people that lost 20 pounds just to gain it back. People lose 20, 30 pounds, sometimes gain back 40 or 50. And it's a real mess. And if somebody was to simply track their calories and to pay attention to that, they would probably start to really learn, okay, this is the actual problem. I'm consuming the wrong foods, and that's leading me to overeat. So I need to kind of examine that. But I'm consuming way too many calories, and these efforts that I have where I get all excited to put more time in the gym, I'm really just spinning my wheels because I still am not developing the habits in the kitchen. And the same goes for people that are practicing, like, people that are getting into like TRT and any of these other kinds of things. If you don't have your habits, there's still no fast track to getting the body that you want. So tracking your calories, I think, is an education opportunity. I don't really love the fact that the idea of like tracking forever. However, tracking for a little while and learning how much you eat and starting to get your macros correct with your proteins, fats, and carbs, whatever you decide on that, I think it's really important. And I think it's I guess like what's changed for me over the years is the fact that I didn't really realize how much tracking I was doing. Just because I didn't write it down, I was like, I think tracking is dumb. And I still think it's dumb to a certain extent. But I'm tracking everything all the time. I'm tracking, even just to have this water today. I'm like, should I put some hydration in there? And I was like, I had some earlier. I'm good. I track everything all day long. So I think tracking in its traditional sense of writing stuff down or using an app can be really beneficial for somebody.
It brings you awareness, it brings you awareness to actually what's going into your mouth, because you might not think, that caramel corn that you had or those, that bag of chips or whatever, the nuts that you had, you might not think it adds up to much since you were just snacking on it. But if you actually track it, you realize, whoa, that was 1,300 total calories just from those snacks. So it brings you a level of awareness to what's going in your mouth during the day. And then, it's not something you need to do forever, because as you get used to it over time, you want to get to a point where you are now using the signals of your body to tell you when not to eat. For example, not tracking, right? Or like you are intuitively tracking, because I know when I eat something like caramel corn, right? Or processed carbohydrates, I know that I personally know I'm not going to get the signal to stop eating this. I know that like I can eat 2 bags of this and not feel full because that's the way it was made. So I'm very aware of like, okay, eat a little bit of it, put it away, or eat some real food first so that your body has those signals of, oh, you're kind of full, then eat a little bit about that stuff so that you don't overdo it. I know that's with processed carbohydrates. So it's something to pay attention to when it does come to some of these foods, and you can pay attention to the signals from your body. That's a way of tracking, as long as you're actually eating foods that are going to send you the right signals, that are actually going to turn on, they're going to turn on leptin, which helps you know that you're full. So something to think about.
Yeah, I'd say it eliminates all the bullshit, because if you ask somebody like, oh, like, how's your diet? It's like, it's pretty good, but I know it could get cleaned up a little. It's like, well, let's track and let's see how little. And it's like, oh shit, like it was a lot more than you thought.
I eat really clean though, bro.
Yeah, well, like, but like, what do you eat though? And it's like, well, I'll go to In-N-Out and, I'll eat pizza on Fridays. And it's like, well, shit, dude, if you track that, like that little bit might be like 3,500 calories, and then you still have your regular stuff.
You don't understand, man. I don't know what's going on. I eat super clean.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, okay, well, what do you eat? Well, like I eat chicken, I eat vegetables, and like, all right, is that it? It's like, yeah, well, let's make sure. So we've had multiple people on the podcast that say they just ask their clients to track. They don't change anything, just track, and then all of a sudden they drop weight because they're like, well, shit, if I have to put this on record that I had, donuts today, then I'm just going to not even put it on, not have them, so I don't have to admit that I did that. So it just, like I said, it eliminates the bullshit, even though I can't say that word right now.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys good?
Yeah.
Good, yep.
All right, here we go. There's people now.
Uh-oh.
Andrew Huberman.
Huberman.
I'm gonna give him that
said,
pee, baby.
I'm going to give him that pee. How do you do this?
Yeah, I'll give him the pee. I'm gonna say Andrew Huberman's perfectly rated, man, because like Huberman came in from left field. He came from left field into all this fitness stuff. He wasn't someone who was lifting or whatever. He just came in with some science information. Now I know everybody gobbles up what he says as gospel, and it's like I saw Alan Aragon post this meme of like, there's if you can find it, dog, the hierarchy of like information. It's like Huberman's at the top of it.
Keep in mind, we have Jesus Christ on our show.
And Huberman
all the time.
Yeah. But Huberman says that Jesus Christ is, that's the thing. I don't know. He seems fairly unbiased.
That's great.
This hierarchy. It's at the bottom, systematic reviews and meta-analysis, blah, blah, blah. Next, randomized controlled trials. Next, short-term mechanistic studies on rodents, and then up at the top is Andrew.
Check out the Huberman clip.
Check out this Huberman clip. I think it comes at it fairly unbiased, man. So,
I'm gonna give him one of these guys.
Underrated. Okay.
I still think he needs to expand and grow more. I want to see it. I want to see him get his name out there to more people, because we need help, man. People need to be healthier, and I know the recommendations we give on this show. We give a lot of recommendations, and over a period of time, it can start to sound completely ridiculous. If people listen to the show, they're like, motherfucker, I got a job. I got 3 kids. I got 2 dogs. I got this. I got that.
Like, you gave me 25 hours of homework, and I still got to get the rest of my life in there.
And even while we're somewhat sensitive to that, I don't think we're sensitive enough to that. Because we're like, yeah, man, I cold plunge in the morning, and then
meditate for 20 minutes.
And then I show up to work late after getting some sun in my eyes, and like, we have this.
But it's because Huberman said.
Yeah. And so anyway, I think that having more information out there is great, because it just gives people more options. He's talking about fasting. He's talking about sunlight. It's like, let's start to think about the things he talks about that are maybe like super harmful. Like, even if a couple things that he mentions or that we mention, maybe going to a cold plunge is a really bad experience for somebody. Maybe they get a little frostbite on their toe or something. I don't know. Like, maybe it's a shitty experience in some weird way. But I think in the end, it'll be a net positive. Maybe somebody fasts a little too long. So we've talked about fasting on the show before. And I know you and I have fasted a little bit. Maybe somebody passes out in the gym or something because of something that we recommended or suggested. And that's just kind of the way it goes. So I think with the good, there's always the bad. But I think Huberman in general is a giant net positive. And I think if you think, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, how was he able to come out of left field so hard? How was he able to accelerate so fast? And if you look at it, Joe Rogan set this blueprint up of having these material experts on his show. And whenever they got into the weeds of talking about these particular topics, whether it be psilocybin mushrooms or going to Mars or whatever, or nutrition, those are the parts of the podcast that people really loved and people really learned.
Yeah.
And Huberman did a great job of coming in, and he's been studying and researching sleep. He's been studying, researching things with the eyes. He's a professor at the University of Stanford. He's super smart, has great colleagues. So I think in his mind, he must have been like, you know what? If I start to pull some of these people in and we start to get into the granular stuff, people are going to really, really love this. They're going to really appreciate it. Maybe every once in a while, it might be a lot for people to digest. But I think people are going to really love hearing all the science behind it. And that's where Huberman started. And now I think it's really cool because you're seeing him now. He's sharing his personality more. In the beginning, he was very like, my things are separate from this, this and that. Now he's like, I don't like that. I don't agree with that. And now I think he's really hitting his stride.
Yeah, perfectly rated. I think more Huberman's going to be good for everybody. And what I love about the information that he puts out there, although most of it, I will just be honest, like I can't listen to it, like a lot of it, because like I'll start kind of zoning out. But like he doesn't have that bias. He's not somebody that's out here that's like bashing the other guy. Like he's just putting out his really good information, and I think that shit's amazing.
Yeah.
All righty, here we go. Layne Norton, underrated, overrated, underrated for Nsima.
Underrated.
Layne Norton. What do we do here? Let's see. I would say that Layne Norton has to go into this category.
Here we go.
All right. Well, let me.
This is the first time that we're all kind of, I think, different, because I'll say perfectly rated.
Perfectly rated?
Yeah.
I'll say Layne Norton's underrated because I've been listening to Layne, man. Like when I started learning about this fitness stuff, I started training people. That was who I started listening to on the evidence-based side of things. But even so, I'm going to just be real. There's a communication style of that dude where I'm like, damn, some people are just not going to digest this because the way he puts it forward is like, it's just like so kind of asshole-ish.
Yeah.
Like just straight up. And I think like that kind of maybe gets in the way of people really listening to what he's saying, because there are some things where he'll just be like, these people are stupid zealots. And I'm like,
that's true.
Dog, I mean, come on, man. So I think there's an underrated thing there just because some people may find it hard to just listen to what he's really trying to say, and maybe they'll just get triggered because he's just going after their neck. But maybe we need somebody to go after somebody's neck every now and then. Not everyone can be kumbaya, my lord, and shit, Right. So I think he's underrated.
Yeah, for me, I would just say overrated, and not necessarily to his own fault, but to the fault of his fans. Like, whenever I make a statement or somebody else makes a statement on nutrition, they're like, let's find out what Layne Norton has to say about this. And they tag him, and it's probably because they appreciate him and they want to hear his kind of final say on something in particular. But I've been saying this for a while. I don't think that nutrition science has done anything for us to help move us forward in any way. And the reason why I say that is, like, what has changed? The foods that we eat to stay healthy are still the same.
That's true. Yeah.
They're going to be the fucking same no matter how many studies, how many tests you have, no matter how smart somebody gets, and no matter how many PhDs somebody has. It doesn't make any difference. We still need to eat the foods that were here provided from wherever you want to believe it came from. That's been my perspective on it the entire time. And, I guess no one can really convince me otherwise. I might be stubborn in that sense that if we were to be able to stick to the natural foods that we have, we're going to be just fine. We don't need Layne Norton, and we don't need anybody else really saying much else about nutrition. It's not a complicated topic. It's not a complicated subject. We don't need more studies. We need people to eat natural foods that do natural things to your body.
That is true. Like if you just ate real food, you get all those signals you need to stop eating. but there's just so many Franken foods out there that people a lot of fit into their diet.
They're delicious.
It's just tough, man. Yeah, man. That's just delicious, man.
Yeah. I was saying perfectly rated because the stance that he has had he's never really wavered from it.
That's a good call. Very true.
So like so there's that, and what I really like is it's very black and white. Like if you want to lose weight, use this use this technique, which he talks about tracking and that sort of thing. And it's not one of those things where it's like, well, wait, if I go on keto, do I have to get in ketosis? Do I have to do this? Can I eat chicken on a carnivore diet? Like, again, that's a silly question, but it's just very like, hey, you can follow this and it's going to work. Now, is it going to work long term? Now that's a whole nother, conversation and that sort of thing, because maybe you freaking hate tracking and you can't do it and it drives you nuts. But like I said, it's just very black and white. Like, okay, you find, even with his app, it'll ask you a bunch of questions and then you could input information and it spits out your calories. And if you just follow that, it's very foolproof.
Quick question. You said that so it's like, you didn't mean that he hasn't changed his mind on things, because he has changed his mind on certain things, but that's not what you meant.
No,
right?
no, I meant like the calories, like the kind of the
calories in, calories out, be in a caloric deficit or caloric surplus.
Yeah. And like I said, it leaves little to question.
And just as I mentioned about Huberman, he's a huge net positive. You got to also keep in mind that Huberman, there's a couple other guys, they're actually out there doing the thing. They're actually out there lifting. Like Layne still looks really good. I don't know his age, but he's still strong as fuck. He's getting ready for a big competition coming up soon. He's competed at the highest level that you can compete in powerlifting. He was in the IPF. He was silver medalist. He's very accomplished, and I think the information that he does have for, my nephew recently is getting into the gym here. He's here at Super Training. He's messing around with a little bit of strength training and messing around on the treadmill and stuff like that. And for him to go to someone like Layne Norton, for him to watch someone like Layne Norton on YouTube, I think could be really healthy for him, because he can learn about like, oh yeah, I need to look at the labels of my food and I need to pay attention to that and things like that. But again, you can kind of bypass all that. If you eat foods that don't have a label, you don't have to worry about it as
Agreed.
much.
Yeah. True. Next one. Mike O'Hearn.
Underrated.
Yeah, I think so.
Come on.
Overrated.
Overrated.
I'm
going under.
I'll say underrated. The reason why underrated, people think he's on drugs. Some people don't think he is. But either way, I think because so many people believe he's on just massive amounts of steroids or has been lying about that, they may not pay attention to some of the things he's actually doing in the gym. And that's the only thing I really pay attention to. Like, I'm like, okay, fuck the steroid thing. I don't like, because when you see him lift, you don't see people lifting and doing what he's been doing for such a long time, even if they're on drugs or if they're not on drugs. And I think that despite of what you may think about him, that's something to pay attention to. What is this person doing that allows them to have such control over the weight they're moving in the gym, not really get injured that much, really good longevity, really good strength? Because the things he's doing is like, people can't do that. What's allowing
strong.
that?
Yeah.
I think that's something to pay attention to, but I think it gets overlooked because the knee-jerk reaction is he's a fake natty liar. And I can understand if somebody thinks that, but you still don't got people doing that shit even if they're on drugs.
Yeah, and in a gym full of people that are on a lot of gear, he's still going to be the strongest. And then, people are like, well, he's just on more gear. But no, I would say underrated as well, because people's personal beliefs and their bias will overlook or they'll be blind to what he's doing in the gym and what his habits and stuff. And then also underrated because all of the memes are incredible.
Those memes are fun.
And we need more of them. But as soon as I seen probably 3 in a row of the baby don't hurt me memes, I'm like, he's going to be more famous for this fucking meme than anything he's ever done. And dude, they're still going and it's incredible. And shout out to him and props to him for making a shirt out of it.
Yeah.
I think that was great. Mark.
I'm just going to say it's overrated just because I hate his guts.
He does everything good.
This guy's perfect, right? I mean, he's been lifting nonstop, I think, since he was 12 years old.
I don't want to.
He's impressive with what he can do with particular exercises. His mobility is really good. He looks incredible. He came in here, I don't know, a couple months back, and there he is popping his shirt off, and he's next to Nsima, who's 20 years younger, right? It's like, I don't know, it's pretty unbelievable what he's been able to do. So I'm just throwing some shit his way and just saying he's an overrated piece of shit.
Well, whatever did happen to that Jiu-Jitsu match that was supposed to happen on the 21st?
Oh, I think,
did he claim his victory or what happened?
I don't know, man. The story behind that, by the way, guys, is like he made the post and I didn't even see it until that morning. We were kind of
kidding around when he was here. We were like, oh, maybe you guys will like do a pose down and jiu-jitsu against each other or whatever.
Yeah. But then he made that post and then he said April 21st, we'll do a jiu-jitsu match. I didn't know about it, but I was like, okay, accept, right? But never
It didn't happen.
And nothing ever happened on the 21st.
I mean, doing jiu-jitsu with Mike, even though I have more experience than him in jiu-jitsu, I think, it would still be quite wild because he's so strong.
Mobile.
Like, he's just such a powerful human being. I mean, I've rolled against Chad Wesley Smith, but I think, like, Mike may have better athleticism.
I think people would really love to see Mike move around. So when I as funny as that may sound, but there's people that probably pay for it. When I was training with Mike, it was the last day that we were training together. And so I said, let's go do something a little different, you know? And I remember his wife and maybe one of his friends were like, you're not going to be able to really get him to do too much different. I'm like, you don't think he's going to like, he won't push the sled and do like, you know, we'll just do like push the sled and like do some push-ups. We did like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 rounds of that. He was hurting, but he could go. Like he was down. He like did it, but it was different for him, you know. And that's what he does to you in the gym. He drags you into his version of deep water, you know. So it'd be interesting in jiu-jitsu. I don't know how much practicing he's done. I don't know how long he's been participating in it, but Mike will kind of almost always catch you off guard with something. So it wouldn't surprise me that he would be pretty proficient at it. I don't know if he'd be to this guy's level of proficiency, but it wouldn't surprise me if he moved really well and understood it really well.
Yeah. We have tons of more stuff, but I think we can do that on another day. Yeah.
I think that's a good place to cut it, guys.
Yeah.
So, guys, what do you think about some of the things you mentioned? Are there things you obviously disagreed with? I'd probably say the Michael Hearn bit.
No way.
But let us know what you guys think about this. There's a few other things we're going to do in the next episode of this, but let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, and let us know if you liked it so we can do more of them because this was a lot of fun.
One more thing I want to share about Mike is that when I've trained with him, my experience has been, you know, I've shot a lot of videos explaining, you know, squat, bench, deadlift, and this kind of stuff. And I like doing that, but like Mike takes it to a different level. He, you know, you got an opportunity to train with him too. Yeah. He's on that camera a lot. And yes, of course, it's because he loves himself and he's a handsome motherfucker. But he really does love teaching people. Yeah. He loves giving people the details. He loves showing people. So he'll show somebody, you know, a seated row. He did this a couple weeks ago. He's like, you can do a seated row this way. And he like rounded his back and he did full range of motion. And then he did a bunch of other ways. And he's like, which way is best? He's like, they're all good. You know, he's trying to show you like, why not mix it up? Why not have variety? So he's showing people that one of the greatest ways you're going to be able to have longevity in training the way that he has is to mix shit up and to be open-minded and to keep working towards doing some different things. That's why, like, you know, when he does those lateral raises, he does those a little different.
All the way
He'll
around.
do overhead presses. He does everything with a little, you know, you're like, okay, I can do lat pull downs, but then he faces fucking backwards on the machine and then he pulls it behind his back. And you're like, or he'll do like pull-ups. He'll do a couple warm-up sets, but then he'll do them behind his back again. And you're like, all right, well, I'm out. I don't know how to manage doing that, but he's a guy that really gives a shit, and he's, you know, an influencer that's had a huge impact on a lot of people, and he really does care. He's taken the time to show you in detail how to do these movements, how to do some of this stuff. Andrew, take us on out of here, buddy.
All righty, everybody. Thank you for checking out today's episode. If you're on Spotify, please drop those comments down below. Love seeing those over there. If you're on YouTube, do the same thing. Hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow the podcast at MB Power Project all over the place. My Instagram is at I am Andrew Z. And Nsima, where you at?
Discord's down below, peeps. Go check that out because we'll have another Q&A coming soon. You can ask us questions there. At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube. At Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark?
I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.